Hello and welcome to Keeping It Real with Amaryllis. Today I have a special guest, Lynn Maddie Green. Thank you for being here. If you can introduce yourself.
Yes, thank you for having me. My name is Lynn Mary Green. I am an author, an advocate, a public speaker, and a freelance writer. And I currently reside in Seminole County, but I have had the great pleasure of meeting Amaryllis through the Florida
Yes.
Crisis Response Team. So I'm excited
That
to be
was
here.
a long time ago.
Yes.
It really has been.
Seminole County, which is usually in the area that I work, we have a domestic violence task force. The task force is made up of various agencies within the county, and then we also partner with agencies throughout the county that provide assistance to victims of domestic violence. In addition to that, we also have a collaboration with the state attorney's office and as well as the Attorney General's office, who we reach out to often for support for victims of crime as well.
Okay, so
Yeah.
do you guys have like a liaison team between you guys and the state attorney's office? Or is that part of the task force? It's only specific to that?
It's part of the task force, and then what's unique to our county is we also have what's called an invest team. So the Seminole County Sheriff's Office has an invest team that is a collaboration with Safe House and the investigators that are a part of the domestic violence unit. So that is a way that we can get together weekly and
Yes.
revise cases that are intimate partner violence, a more increased threat.
Yes.
And we're able to maintain that communication with the state
Yes.
attorney's office as well.
I like that. And I mean, I haven't really spoken about it on this show, but I grew up around domestic violence. I grew up in a household of domestic violence. So for me, it's very important to, I'm sorry. Can we crop that out? Anyways, so it's super important for me to revamp that area because I know sometimes we just lose focus. And I definitely feel that the sheriff's office does not have enough resources.
Yes, for sure. And I remember I was watching one of your initial videos, and you were talking about the importance of resources
Yes.
and being able to basically arm ourselves with as much information as possible so that
Yes.
we can give to people when we're meeting them in their time of need. And so I think that what happens usually within agencies is that we have select units, and those select units are really focused on that particular
Yes.
issue or that particular role, and a lot of times we defer to it, which is amazing. I think
Yeah.
that's just the part of normal organization, right? But if we had frontline people armed with those resources on hand, it may make it a little easier for them
Absolutely.
to process the crisis that they're experiencing.
Absolutely.
If you don't have any other way, sometimes that's the best way to be able to
Yes.
share the information. Yeah.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you on that.
Yeah.
And did you grow up in a home with domestic violence? What inspired you to be an advocate? Because
Yeah.
it's not an easy job, and it's definitely not for the weak.
No,
Um,
no.
So what inspired you?
Yeah, so as you know, I wrote a book. It's called Enough with the Secrets, Mama.
Yes.
And in that book, I actually detail the account of, I call myself a child survivor of domestic violence because my mother experienced it in her relationship with my father. And I speak of that in my book, as well as a couple other things in life that I went through, sexual assault, you name it. I kind of feel like I've experienced a lot of crisis and trauma, and that is ultimately what led me to the place of wanting to advocate for people in the community. I think when you have that personal connection, it makes it even more necessary
Absolutely.
to help others. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I just love having and seeing women or people in general that are survivors because that's what drives you and that's what makes you so passionate. It's very different for someone to try and understand, and that's why sometimes we have certain detectives that they don't take women their word at any face value because they're like, oh, well, she's just going to go back to him or this and that, not realizing that sometimes women go back because they feel so stuck and they don't know where to go, what to
feel
do, they
alone.
can't afford it. And I was very angry with my mom. As a child, I was like, well, why would she stay in such a bad relationship? And it was my father, but it wasn't until I grew up that I got to really see her strength. And I was like, wow, the fact that she went through all of that and she still managed to be such an amazing mom and be there. It was really bad growing up, to the point that my dad even broke her back one time when she was bathing me. So it's like growing up in that atmosphere made me have so much more empathy, not just for domestic violence, but for a lot of other victims, which I feel is something that we definitely lack in law enforcement, because you have to be so callous that sometimes you become too callous and you forget to empathize with people.
Yeah, and I think that's where advocacy, I feel like, is probably one of the gems in law enforcement. And I feel blessed that we have that here in Central Florida. A lot of states don't have advocacy programs like we do. But I think that's where they are able to kind of mend those things,
fill in those gaps.
Yes, I mean, obviously, I will tell you, I've responded to scenes where some of the officers or the deputies have been amazing advocates, and that's what we want to see, because we want people in the community to feel cared for and understood, especially in a moment of crisis. You know. But when advocates are able to come in and kind of help them understand, look, they're focused on procedural things. You know, there may be some things they may not be able to tell you, but I'm here for you. So I think that's where it's important to be able to have an advocacy program that works together with the law enforcement officers. I think it's essential.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you guys normally come out to the scene when it's something, pretty big, or do you guys just normally give them a call the next day?
No, we handle different types of cases. So for instance, I am the law enforcement advocate for our county with the county sheriff's office. I handle the domestic violence cases within that, but then I'm also on call. So when I'm on call, I respond to crisis incidents, and that could be just about anything.
Okay. So, because I know with us, for the most part, our advocates call them after the incident. So the deputies take care of everything, and then afterwards, the next day, they call, they follow up, they provide them with resources. But I feel like we've really lost that connection. Before, it used to be much tighter of a bond, because they would go out to a lot of these scenes and they would see them there, and they would even follow up the next day, even if they went out to the scene to take photos, because maybe today as the victim you don't have any bruising, but the next day all the bruises show up. So we're not doing a lot of those things. So I think it's important, because I feel like it's a unit within the agency that's kind of been forgotten about. And we definitely don't provide our deputies with enough training on domestic violence, and it's just something that I really, really am passionate about trying to grow. So I'm trying to talk to different agencies, like, hey, what is it that you guys do? And just take bits and pieces from every agency, because it seems like we all do it a little different. I definitely want to talk a little bit more about your book, if you can tell everybody. I think it's amazing. What you're doing, and the fact I love the name itself, because sometimes I feel that we're ashamed as victims to talk about it.
Especially in our culture, right?
Absolutely. Like, for me, it was like, I loved my dad. He was who he was, but he was still, to me, a good dad. He was a horrible husband, but he was still a good dad to me. He had his issues, and I always had to take care of him, even as a child, because he had alcoholism, drug abuse. But it wasn't until he passed away that I felt more comfortable talking about it, because I never wanted to offend him. So I feel that many times as victims, we're hesitant to talk about it, and we try to keep it a secret because we don't want people to know the truth. But at the end of the day, as a Christian, I feel like there's no better way to share God's glory than to turn your test into that testimony, so that other people can say, hey, if they were able to come out of this, I can do it too.
Absolutely. And that was the driving force for me.
Awesome.
I knew that he kept nudging me in that area. And I knew I wanted to be a writer as much as I can remember. I wanted to be able to work in some capacity with healing people or public service, but through writing somehow. I obviously ended up in public service. But with my writing, I finally had an opportunity to help others heal through a lot of the things that I see on a regular basis. So my book, Enough with the Secrets, Mama, is a memoir. It's an immigrant woman's story of coming here from the Dominican Republic to with her daughters and trying to find a stable place here and all the things that we overcame while we were here. But within that family dynamic, just the difficulties that we had and the things that, you know, our parents or my mother specifically hid from us in order to protect us, which ultimately in some way also affected the relationship and the bond. So when I relate that to what I see on a regular basis, I see a lot of people struggling with those foundational relationships. So they're sometimes the cause for the break in issues with mental health we're seeing, you know, use of substances, a lot of overdoses. You know, and I'll say specifically, I recently responded to an incident where that I could tell the mother-daughter relationship was foundational. There was an issue there. And so the more I converse with women, the more I realize that that is a serious concern, and it's a driving factor for the way that we ultimately end up leading our lives. So the book is a way for me to just kind of share my story and try to encourage women to heal by providing some coping skills ultimately on how to handle it. And so my mother is now 78 years old. Wow. If she would hear me telling her age, she would totally kill me. But we have a great relationship, but we had to get there. And I just want to encourage people, women especially, daughters, that it's possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even through all of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And when does your book come out? I can't wait to read it.
Yeah, so the book is publicly released May 14th, and it's going to be available everywhere you buy books. It's specifically available for pre-order everywhere at this time, but I will be doing a book signing for anyone who's local at the Barnes & Noble in Altamont Mall on May 14th, the day of its release, from 6 to 8 o'clock. So I'm really excited about that.
We need to get you to do a book signing here in Osceola County.
Yes, I would love to.
We need to find a place because we have so many Hispanics in our community, Latinos, and you know, just in general, it's a book that can be for everyone. It's not just for you know, somebody who's an immigrant. It's just to show that you can thrive through any situation as long as you have the will to do it.
Absolutely. Yes.
Thank you so much for being here, Mama. I appreciate you. And May 15th, enough with the secrets, Mama.
Yeah, May 14th.
May 14th, okay.
Yes.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.